remember stopping at the St. Vrain Market and the Spirit Hound Distillery, which, like many other businesses in Lyons, had been flooded out and I think just had opened. In the aftermath of the floods, I had a conversation with the guy who was then the FEMA director on a plane ride back to Washington. I thanked him for his rapid support. And he said, to tell you the truth, Michael, my agency is only as good as the people on the ground. My answer was, if that's true, you've got nothing to worry about in Colorado. And because even in those early days, before the water had receded, before families began mucking out their basements and thinking about where their children would go to school, resilience was on display everywhere along the Front Range, including right here in Lyons. Mountain Strong was a phrase first spoken among neighbors, then tagged on the sides of buildings, then printed on t-shirts and wristbands. It captured the resolve of communities to answer adversity with grace and grit and a determination to build back stronger than before.
I do want to say to the Lyons town staff, you have lived this disaster since the day it began, and you especially have exemplified what it means to have grit. I think many of you will recognize this. I think this bumper sticker was on every car in Lyons for several years. And it was printed by a local print shop. Before they even had electricity, they ran on generators to make these for everyone. And it's true that Lyons, Colorado, we do have grit. Victoria Simonson, Dave Cosgrove, Jim Blankenship, Deb Anthony, Jackie Watson, Tony Cavalier, and all of you have joined the team since those days in 2013. You've never wavered from the notion that Lyons would come through this a stronger community. And with their counterparts at the state and the county, they've worked tirelessly to ensure we had the support we needed to succeed. They say that having grit is having the persistence to overcome challenges to reach relentlessly for a desired goal. Most citizens will never fully appreciate the sacrifices you've made to help pull us through this recovery, and we cannot thank you enough. Could we have a round of applause, please, for the Lyons team?
You know, when this flood occurred, I remember we were in a terrible drought, and I remember lying in bed, and the first night it was raining, I thought, thank God, rain. The second night, I became a little bit concerned, and then the third night, everyone was talking that this could be a serious flood event, and then, of course, it became the most damaging flood in the history of the state. More than 1,800 homes, more than 18,000 people displaced, nearly $4 billion worth of damage over 24 counties. It just was, Senator Bennet described flying over the devastation, and we landed several times, we picked people up, we stopped the Red Cross. I know the Red Cross is here today. And the one thing that struck me that I will always remember was we saw all these broken roads and broken bridges. We didn't see a single broken spirit. And I had gotten a call that morning from a buddy of mine, Pete Shumlin, who had been the governor. Mayor Sullivan, I always think of mayor as a step above governor, just so we're clear. But Governor Shumlin in Vermont, they'd had the flood 2 years before, and he said the one thing you got to remember is that you can't go to people that have lost so much and build back the way it was. You've got to build it better. That's the only thing, the only possible way that you can let people control the response to what sometimes nature does to us. And I know I grew up, my mom was widowed twice by the time she was 40, and she would tell us that you can't control what God throws your way, but you can control whether it makes you stronger or better, whether you're able to push back against it. And I think Lyons is probably the single best example of that sense of resilience and indomitable will that the state of Colorado, I think, is rightfully known for.